The Vengeance 38 is the first 38mm single crown fork to come from X-Fusion. The all-new chassis includes some new tech inside and some refinements to existing features from previous models within the X-Fusion lineup. The Vengeance 38 boasts all-metal internals, a new fine-cut HLR damper, internally adjustable travel, and a number of features that place it among most other high-end offerings. Starting with the upper crown assembly, a tapered steer tube is pressed into a solid crown with a wide stance to create a rigid interface with the 38mm stanchions. Moving down the fork, the magnesium lowers have a clean look with purposeful bracing around the arch and dropouts to create a rigid interface between the wheel and the fork. A set of pressure relief ports are found just below low-friction wiper seals with set screws to release lower leg pressure, a feature that has been found on X-Fusion chassis for over a decade. A standard threaded 15mm through axle ties everything together, and a 180mm post-mount brake interface with a bolt-on hose guide round out the lower leg details. The fine-cut HLR cartridge damper is all new for X-Fusion, and the Vengeance 38 is among the first models to receive the new damper. The cartridge-style construction is unique in the way it utilizes the inner stanchion wall as part of its construction rather than a self-contained inner tube. The damper is a bled system with an overflow port for pressure blow-off at full bottom out to maintain and equalize pressure within the system. The HLR denotation indicates independently adjustable high and low speed compression as well as low speed rebound. On the spring side, the Vengeance 38 uses a cartridge air spring to reduce piston size and improve small bump performance. Another long-running feature of X-Fusion forks is found in the lower portion of the air spring, which allows for easy internal travel adjustment. A dual lock ring system houses travel-reducing spacers, allowing for 20mm of adjustment in 10mm increments. The upper portion of the air spring also allows for the use of volume spacers to fine-tune the spring curve. The Vengeance 38 is offered in 3 different colorways, black, tan, and a special dark blue to commemorate the 25th anniversary of X-Fusion. The fork will only be offered in one damper configuration, with travel options between 160 and 180mm, with support for 29-inch wheels only in either a 44mm or a 51mm offset. The Vengeance 38 tipped the scales at 2,461 grams, placing it around mid-pack for weight, and it retails at $1,000, making it the second cheapest fork in the test. With the strong presence in the OEM world for over 2 decades and all the knowledge and development that comes with it, we are curious to see what X-Fusion's latest high-end fork was going to ride like.
The Vegan 38. Overall, a decent fork. It was actually pretty easy to set up. It was one of the only forks that I kind of just set everything in the middle, and maybe I went 1 or 2 clicks each way just to, test it. And overall, it was pretty solid fork, throughout the day.
It was an easy fork to get on and get up to a comfortable setup and ride at a comfortable pace. It's nice that you have a lot of adjustments on hand. You have high and low speed compression. The clicks that are on offer, I found that you had to go quite a few clicks to actually notice an adjustment. I did enjoy the fork with more compression damping than less, leaning more on that versus the air spring.
What stood out initially was the super light feeling on the trail. It had a tendency to mute a lot of trail feedback. Kind of made a lot of different sized bumps disappear, but the trade-off was that you felt a little bit stuck in the travel. So I played around with air pressure to get it to sit higher, and then came back down in pressure a bit and ended up using some of the damping controls to kind of slow the velocities through the fork, since it was really light feeling.
This fork did a great job at maintaining a good ride height through the bike park berms. Anything where you're having to put your weight on the fork, gave you a good platform, a lot of support. Through the chattery bumps, like real high frequency braking bumps, or the flatter rock gardens where the fork is needing to flutter over things, it was great at that. It was really good. The second that compressions became medium to larger size, and in those rock gardens where bumps are coming from every direction, that's where this fork, I started to notice that the performance wasn't quite there. It just got a little bit more overwhelmed. Those successive hits, it couldn't quite recover as well as I wanted it to. Again, I kept going more in with high-speed compression, which helped calm things down, but it never quite got to where the Fox, the RockShox, the Ohlins were at.
I noticed right off the bat in the parking lot test that it had a little bit of top out. I didn't think I would notice it all that much out on the trail, but actually when you're lifting up and doing some gaps, you know, coming off of drops, stuff like that, you can actually feel that top out.
One drawback of it, I think, was the flex out of the chassis. I had the axle loosen up on the first couple runs, but after retorquing it, it stayed tight for the rest of the test. That chassis flex kind of became apparent under really hard successive hits. I felt like there was maybe a bit of binding in it, and it just kind of suffered where it was really good at taking away those bigger bumps. The small bumps kind of transmitted through my hands pretty heavily. So that was kind of the main drawback. It was pretty noisy, had a bit of knocking going on inside, and we pulled it apart to take a look. Everything was tight, so it just seems like it has a bit of a top out that is kind of unavoidable, but pretty comfortable overall. Just maybe a little less supportive than what I would have liked.
Overall, I think for the price, you get a really good fork with a nice 38 mil chassis that's a good mix of stiffness and compliance. The downside is that I think even with all adjustments on hand, it would be hard to take away some of that lack of confidence and comfort when things get really rowdy, as well as the feedback you're going to kind of always have through your hands. You can work it out, you probably could get somewhere, but there's going to be a compromise somewhere along the line.